Hello, everybody, and welcome to another NPCs Weekly News Roundup for the week of November 20th, 2020. It is Friday. It is, where's my date? It's September 18th, 2020. Here to our first story, and this is actually breaking news for all of us right now here, too. Figured this is a kind of a big one to cover, of course, with who it is. Joined via Discord by Kyle because we're in the midst of a pandemic still, and of course, everything is all kinds of crazy. So this thing is a chocker. I mean,
yeah, it's a beast.
It's huge. Doing that we had the Resident Evil stuff, that they were successful with Castlevania. Welcome to another NPCs Weekly News Roundup. And it's the news time. I am joined, of course, by Kyle via Discord. Kyle, hello.
What's up?
Man. Well, everybody, good evening and welcome to another NPCs Weekly News Roundup. It is a brand new year. It is January 1st, 2021. We all survived. Happy New Year, everybody. In tonight's news, we've got, of course, more Cyberpunk crap to talk about because I swear to God, this is not coming off of our list. We've also got a Game Boy prototype that hasn't been seen in a very long time, especially since like CES specifically, that we could talk about a little bit here. It has resurfaced. And a game based in the Simpsons universe made for the Dreamcast. Again, guys, it is a new year. It is January 1st, 2021. And of course, I am joined by Kyle via Discord. Kyle, what's up, man?
What's up?
Dude, it is a new year. It is a new us. Of course, we were on a holiday break this last week, enjoying Christmas and everything with what family we could, given social distancing and all of our other stuff to try to keep ourselves safe. So here we are now. Did you get everything you wanted for Christmas, Kyle?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
Bastard. You and that freaking computer. Here we are. Before we started doing the news, before we actually turned everything on here, Kyle and I have been going back and forth about all the money he's been spending to build himself a new computer, and just a little bit jealous of what's coming down the line for him. So I can't wait to actually see that thing run Cyberpunk, hopefully flawlessly, outside of the few little hiccups and such. Can't wait to actually see that ray tracing for sure. So, yeah, well, what are you going to say? What are you going to say?
Oh, no, I'm just excited. Just still flabbergasted.
I'm excited for you too. I really am excited for you. But with that, we got some news to talk about this week. And of course, like I said, we haven't really skipped talking about these guys for almost a month now, if not longer. Our first story of the night is right back to CD Projekt Red and Cyberpunk. This story comes to us from GameSpot. Cyberpunk 2077 class action lawsuit is happening. CD Projekt Red will defend itself. The Polish studio will defend itself against accusations it misled investors on the state of Cyberpunk's console release. As threatened earlier in December, CD Projekt SA is being taken to court in the United States over claims that the bug-ridden state of Cyberpunk 2077's PS4 and Xbox One releases were hidden from investors, causing them to incur losses. Now the company has responded to acknowledge the class action suit with a brief statement, saying it will defend itself vigorously. The class action refers to Cyberpunk 2077's release on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, now last gen of course for us, which ranged from incredibly buggy to literally unplayable. The issues encountered by players on these consoles led to CD Projekt Red putting out a statement that invited unhappy players to seek a refund and later caused Sony to remove the game from the PlayStation Store in a rare move. These issues caused CD Projekt Red's prices to plummet, with the company's founders losing approximately $1 billion in value off their joint share. CD Projekt has already received criticism from many within the gaming community for only providing advanced review copies on PC, meaning the numerous issues on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One didn't come to light until the game's retail release. Now, so here's a little bit of the breakdown exactly as to what's going on in the suit itself. So the class action suit alleges that Cyberpunk 2077 was virtually unplayable on the current generation Xbox or PlayStation systems due to an enormous number of bugs. And by it saying current generation, don't know if it's talking about just specifically the or if it's mislabeling, saying that it should be talking about last gen, which is actually what they are, the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, or if there's been enough bugs on the Series X, Series S, and PlayStation 5 to also warrant part of that too. Number two part here, as a result, Sony would remove Cyberpunk 2077 from the PlayStation Store, and Sony, Microsoft, and CD Projekt would be forced to offer full refunds for the game. And three, consequently, CD Projekt would suffer reputational and pecuniary harm, and 4, as a result, defendants' statements about its business operations and prospects were materially false and misleading and or lacked a reasonable basis at all relevant times. When the true details entered the market, the lawsuit claims that investors suffered damages. So, that's really the gist of the story that we're talking about here, guys, especially with this one. Let's kind of break this down here as to really where most of the issue is at. Is that the issue comes down to, on the stock side of it, or especially the investor, as you're a public company, a public entity, one that does trade on a stock market, is you have certain liabilities that you have to your stockholders. You really can't be like hiding anything, throwing shade at anything. You got to keep everything consistent, because not only is it a financial penalty to them if you screw up, it's also a financial penalty to themselves, because of course they're riding on what you're telling them, that you are being successful, that you're going to be successful with what you're putting out. And that's where they feel that that's the biggest problem, is that they didn't say anything about the last gen release for Cyberpunk 2077 until like the day of, or the day before, is when the review copies actually got out there. And then, all the refunds. It came out in the news that in another article that they actually hit 13 million copies sold, even after, even after all the refunds, they still sold 13 million. So I don't know. I mean, what do you think? Do you think the lawsuit actually has merit? I mean, we were talking about this kind of in chat the other day, but what do you think, Kyle?
I don't know. I have a problem with the lawsuit in the first place, because I feel like, by people trying to attack them like this or go after them, and I know that, there might be a lot of people that feel extremely hurt over it and whatnot, but do they never want this company to actually be able to produce a game again? Like, I think people have to look at that.
That's a big one.
The whole going back to it. Let's see. The starting with 1 was virtually unplayable. Current generation Xbox due to enormous bugs. I think there is some merit to that. Whether it's maybe them, I don't know if it's worth suing over. I think you kind of had to look at it with, there's kind of a veil over this. They haven't really talked about it. There had actually been, I think, some communications from inside the company that had said before the game came out that it's not running all that great on the previous gen consoles. It's not going to run that great. So the question is, should it have even been released? I know we keep bringing that up, as far as the whole removal and refunds, I don't think CD Projekt Red's hand was forced at all to that. Okay. That could have been an optional thing to the storefronts to actually pull that.
I find it interesting on the refund part, because we've talked about this a couple weeks back when the refund stuff hit. And it's kind of unprecedented when it comes to refunds in the gaming world, especially because we had the ability for physical copies to be returned up until, I think, the 21st of December. I think that was as far as it was before they pushed their first patch. And, it's unheard of. I mean, I asked you this and you said this, is that, I asked you if there was any event that you could ever think of about returning a physical copy of a game, and you couldn't come up with anything at all. This is kind of unprecedented for what actually occurred. And it's, I guess what it comes down to is, if this does proceed forward, if it does end up like where it actually will be a class action, anybody who bought the game can be involved, or at least be able to actually receive, monetary gain, or, receive some sort of money for this. But I don't know what it means for CD Projekt Next, though, if it does go through and if it is successful.
Yeah.
No more Witchers, obviously, is one thing. I would assume that, if they got hit hard and had to sell a lot of stuff, they don't make a lot of games. They'd have to spin off or something.
Sean did bring up a good point that, they bury the company. You're always going to have a broken game. Who's going to repair it?
Yeah, that's a big part of it. And, are the assets themselves and the devs who actually worked on it going to be like sold off? Will someone step in and say, it's like, okay, we'll save you. We're going to buy your company up and they'll be a part of us, and then all the devs are still there. And now it's just, okay, what's it going to take to fix this? But we know going into open world games, we've had so many of them this year. We had Watch Dogs Legion, we had Ghost of Tsushima, we had Assassin's Creed Valhalla, just to name a few. And those games themselves are not without bugs, but at the scale of bugs that we've seen and actual unplayability in in Cyberpunk versus those, this takes the cake. I mean, we make there's been jokes about Skyrim for years, and this and even Fallout, and this takes the cake, I think.
Well, let's also look at the big one that I always talk about being burned by No Man's Sky.
Yeah.
Was there any lawsuits over that one? And Sean Murray,
actually,
got up in front of, millions of people when he got on live television and said, oh, yeah, our game can do that. Oh, yeah, our game can do that too. And those features weren't even in there for launch for 6 months down the line until like a year and a half, 2 years later, You think about when was multiplayer added to the game.
Mm-hmm. So it looks like here that No Man's Sky, it looks like Hello Games actually did have a lawsuit against it based on they used, I guess the lawsuit was aimed at misleading advertisements, of course, because, the trailer that was shown at E3 and the other subsequent footage that came out for No Man's Sky before the game released definitely painted it in a different light than what the game actually was. But according to this article I found here from 2016, this little bit says, we understood that the screenshots and videos in the ad had been created using game footage and acknowledged that in doing this, the advertisers would aim to show the product in the best light. Taking into account the above points, we considered that the overall impression of the ad was consistent with gameplay and the footage provided, both in terms that captured by Hello Games and by third parties, and that it did not exaggerate the expected player experience of the game. So, apparently, it looks like the lawsuit was more aligned with false advertisement than it was actual bugs, even if it didn't, deliver, what it was originally promising there in the first point, but it wasn't, it wasn't broken when it was brought to market. That was the bigger difference.
True, but there were a lot of bugs.
There were.
Regardless.
I won't say you're wrong on that. I mean, it looked like someone went crazy making creatures in Spore and then just copy pasting them in there. But
right.
Yeah, but compared to this one, at least though, it just seems like for a game that's been hyped up for what 6-7 years, and is finally got delivered and ended up being worse than pineapple pizza. I don't know. I hate pineapple pizza. We're not getting into that now. I don't have the patience to get into that one
okay.
now. But at least for me, that's how it feels. But yeah, I think the biggest one is it's going to be depending on, I think really, it's not necessarily the first one or the second one, because I think the first one is going to argue history, especially with open world games. The second one is going to be refunds, because it does happen in the industry. Damn, something special with me here. We got refunds in the industry, not necessarily of this type, but we do have it happening. It's that last one, I think, that's going to be a big one, is number 4, which is about the misleading statements. And so you're going to be talking about material that says, it's like, what did they say to the public versus what they said in private? If they said to the public that the game on Xbox One and PlayStation 4 looks good, no major issues to be aware of, your usual, bugs and hiccups here and there, versus internal emails that say this is a piece of shit and we can't release this now, but we're going to have to release it now. Like, we have no choice. If there's anything like that comes up, then they're immediately screwed. That's going to be the biggest issue. That's going to be their problem. So I guess what we'll just have to do, again, just like everything else we see here, is we just have to wait and see what actually comes of this. Because class action lawsuit, the one that was specifically filed here was more specific to cover investment companies themselves. So this was a law firm. The law firm who filed this is one that covers more like your larger shareholders. So your investment groups that buy X amount of shares, not your millennial down the road who uses Robinhood to grab 10 shares of CD Projekt and then trade it the next day or something, whatever. Nothing like that. But we'll have to see. If this does go through, then I wouldn't be surprised to see another class action lawsuit that's more aimed at consumers. So, yeah. Anyway, so that's I think everything there on the Cyberpunk side of things. I swear to God, I am so tired of talking about it in the news. I will say one last thing on Cyberpunk before we move on to the rest of it. So I finally went the route of completely uninstalling every video card driver I had on my computer. I used DDU, the display driver uninstaller, and removed every instance of my AMD drivers and any remnants of my NVIDIA drivers from my last graphics card, and then reinstalled from scratch. No issues when doing it. It was a very actually quick and easy process. I didn't expect it to be that easy, but yay for me, I suppose. And sure enough, nothing changed. Still stuck at 30 frames per second and 1440p. I just can't get that game to run any better. I can't, and I'm pissed off. I tried everything again. I tried window mode. I tried window mode. I tried reducing it down. I tried everything, and I still can't do it. So I know there's supposed to be another patch sometime in the next few weeks, so I may just suck it up and just try to keep pushing through. But Sean hit us up with another comment here on Facebook too. See if I can actually get to it. The true question is the amount expectation people have may have been above and beyond what the game will ever be. Expectation has gotten crazy. There are many posts of people that are upset that when they got their refund that the game was removed from their library because the expectation was to get the game for free. This is kind of a two-part comment here on this one. So the game was hyped like mad. Of course, absolutely. I think the expectation was way over the top. And when they threw Keanu Reeves into it, when they actually said, hey, he's going to be here in this game. He's got a voice in this game. This is, a lot of people didn't realize exactly how far he was into it. But I think that was really a big part of it. I think a lot of the stuff that was actually being put out or that we had seen in bits and pieces definitely hyped it up because a lot of people were looking forward to this game. So I think that's it anyway. For anybody who is looking at expectations, I think are going to be high, especially for those sought after games. I mean, we got Halo Infinite coming down the line that I'm really excited for. There's still plenty of others. When I can finally get a PlayStation 4, and PlayStation 5, I can actually play some of those other games. Anyway, not trying to go on. Of course, we got Overwatch 2, and Overwatch 2 could be a piece of crap, and we don't want that. And then on the second part, let's see here. On the second part of his comment, there are many people that are upset that they got their game refunded and removed from their library. Yeah, that's on them. I'm not going to sympathize with those guys. They expect to get a refund and that too. It's like if I go, if I buy a pair of jeans that are too small for myself and I take them back to the store because they're too small, they're going to give me my money back, but I have to give them my jeans back. I'm not gonna be able to keep them and give them to my kids so they can grow into them if they're not the size for him or anything. No, that's not how it works. It's very rare you're ever going to see anything like that. I think ever. Unless the terms are specifically said, it's like, we'll give you your money back and then just hold on to the game. No, they're not. No, not going to do that. And then the last thing here is you might look in the article about incorrect config. It was found that they have released the update with the config calling from the console release for frame rate. Look, okay, Sean, I will, when we're done with the news tonight, I will go and try to look for that config stuff for sure. Because I knew about the hex edit, which I did try originally because of the issues with AMD processors. And yeah, that didn't change anything either. So I'll go look at what you're talking about after we're done with the news for sure. So,
continuing on.
Yeah, continuing on because we were trying not to get all crazy there on this one. So next article actually comes to us from IGN, and Kyle is going to stretch out his vocal cords here a little bit by talking to us about this one with 100 billion hours spent watching gaming content on YouTube this last year, and I wonder why.
Can't imagine. Over 100 billion hours were spent watching gaming content on YouTube this year, with Minecraft leading as the most watched game.
Whoa!
YouTube Culture and Trends has released an annual gaming report, and the company revealed that viewers watched over 100 billion hours of gaming content on the site, which is the equivalent of traveling to Neptune and back 475,000 times. This makes 2020 YouTube gaming's biggest year yet. YouTube gaming has its biggest year ever in 2020 with 100 billion watch time hours and 40 million active gaming channels. YouTube head of global gaming Ryan Watt said, of those 100 billion hours, Minecraft was the single most watched game with over 201 billion views. That's more than double the amount of views from the second most watched game of 2020 received, which was Roblox at 75 billion views. Garena, Free Fire, Grand Theft Auto 5, and Fortnite came in third, fourth, and fifth place at 72, 70, and 67 billion respectively.
Jeez.
YouTube also received the top 10 creators in terms of gaming views for the year. FGTV, Jelly Flamingo, Robin Hood Gamer, It's Funny, Lazarbeam, Slogo, Mike Crack, Arab Gaming Network, and Vegeta777 over 9 I almost said over 9,000. Wow. Over 80,000 content creators hit 100,000 subscribers. Over more than 1,000 creators reached 5 million subscribers, and over 350 creators crossed the 10 million subscriber mark, according to YouTube. That's insane.
It really is.
We've also seen gaming creators give back in incredible ways this year, as Watt said. The gaming community has always been willing to lend a helping hand when needed. This year, many of YouTube's gaming creators and partnership tournaments raised awareness and money for several causes. This includes Jacksepticeye raising over 66,000 or 66
660,000.
660,000. Wow, can't talk tonight.
It's all
In
good.
12 hours for COVID-19 relief efforts. Cow Rage raising over 500,000 during a 12-hour charity stream for the CDC Foundation, and many tournaments hosted by YouTube Gaming to raise money for organizations like the Call of Duty Endowment, the World Health Organization, and the United Children's Fund. And just last week, the game theorists Matt Pat and Stephanie Patrick hosted a 10-hour charity live stream event to benefit St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Watt said they tripled their goal and raised $3 million with the help of other large creators and gamers like Markiplier, the Game Grumps, Mr. Beast, and more.
Wow.
Yeah, that's just crazy.
I mean, yeah, even like, we it's kind of funny to say it's like, we're at least in part of that hours because, we only started putting up YouTube stuff this year. We tried a couple live stream things here and there, but overall though, no, like we did this, we were at least kind of a part of that, at least in the hours watched, which is kind of cool. But no, it's like there was a lot of free time or something, it was like there was a lot going on that allowed you to consume more content on YouTube.
Oh, absolutely.
And of course, Sean had to throw his 2 cents in here and says it's because everyone that wanted to build a computer couldn't buy the parts to build a computer. Scalpers suck. I'm not sending any judgy eyes here through the camera, but I'm sending some judgy eyes here through the camera. So, yeah. But no, that was, it's for a lot of the games that were listed here, Minecraft and Grand Theft Auto 5 is 2 of them. Like those are actually ones that I watched a lot of myself too. Watched quite a bit, played quite a bit actually too this year. But yeah, I mean, that's crazy to see exactly how much YouTube, grew up. And I wonder if part of the growth anyway was the fact that, Mixer died and people were moving over to new locations as well too. And then you got a lot of people who are on Twitch who had to get their VODs pulled down, especially, and put up onto some other place because of all the DCMA crap going on. Or DMCA, excuse me. Yeah, DMCA nonsense going on over on Twitch's side. But that's pretty cool. I mean, especially for the metrics there. Can't fight at least all those changes. That's really awesome. So, yay. Good job on you, YouTube. Good job on you creators, and good job on you creators, especially, who were able to actually use your platform for good and get some money raised for everybody that really needed the help. So, kudos to you guys. Definitely. For sure. Now, we move on to another story here, and this story's from IGN as well. A lost Game Boy add-on called the Work Boy has been found after 28 years. Say what? Your Game Boy could have helped store your addresses, manage your finances, and more. A lost, unreleased Game Boy add-on known as the Work Boy has been discovered after 28 years and reveals an accessory that could have brought PDA-like functions like an address book, calculator, appointment book, and so much more to Nintendo's beloved handheld device. Video game historian Liam Robertson shared his quest to find out what happened to this add-on in a new Game History Secrets video on Did You Know Gaming. And not only did he track down the original creators behind the Work Boy to learn the story behind why it was never released, he was able to get one of the only prototypes in the world working. As you can see in the image below, the Work Boy was a keyboard that connected to the Game Boy via link cable and would allow you to take advantage of 12 apps, including an address phone book and an appointment book. The Work Boy was set to be an officially licensed accessory for the Game Boy that was designed by Source Research and Development and produced by Fabtech Inc. in close collaboration with Nintendo. In January 1992, Work Boy was officially trademarked by Nintendo of America and even made an appearance at CES 1992. It was profiled by various outlets, but following a brief swell in coverage, it more or less vanished. Robertson was able to track down Eddie Gill, the architect of the Work Boy and the founder of Source Research and Development, and he discussed how the Work Boy was originally planned on being released in late 1992 or early 93 for around $79 to $89 US, but various issues prevented it from ever reaching the public. Gill said there were only 2 Work Boy prototypes left in the world that he knew of, and he said that one was probably deep in the vaults of Nintendo, while the other was in the possession of Frank Baluz, the founder of Fabtech. Let's see here. As we go on, I think a little bit more. Yeah. Robertson got in touch with Baluz, and he did indeed have a Work Boy prototype. Baluz did not, however, have a Game Boy to test it out, so he sent it to Robertson in hopes he would be able to get it working. When he first connected the Work Boy to a Game Boy, nothing happened but a short alarm beep. Turns out the Work Boy needed a cartridge to fully function, although none could be found. So this is a big one because we talked about the hack a couple weeks ago, though, too, with or a while ago with Nintendo, and it was in one of our biggest news stories episodes. As fate would have it, Robertson was able to find a ROM of the software in one of the big recent leaks that followed the Nintendo Giga leak earlier this year. After burning the ROM to a blank cartridge, Robertson got it to work. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy to think that he actually got this sucker working in the first place. It's just funny to think that this thing has been sitting around for almost 30 years, and here we go now getting, I don't know, getting this thing just working. And the only way he was able to get it to work was with the stuff from the Giga leak. It's nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, you gotta appreciate it.
That's so cool, though.
It is, yeah.
Oh man, yeah. No, because I'll be honest. All the other articles that I'd seen, I'm glad this one actually had a picture of it up and running, because I had only seen the ones with the diagram of it, and I was like, wow. And I'd seen the keypad separate. Yeah.
Let's see here if I can actually. I'm bringing up the video here now of Did You Know Gaming just to actually show it. Let's see. Yeah, so I'll bring this up here. I got it muted. Let me flip back over here to the capture here of this one. But yeah, it's just the thought that they were thinking kind of ahead of the time in one fashion or another to incorporate some sort of PDA style functionality into the Game Boy. It's just interesting to think that that's what they were going to at least kind of proceed forward with. And the fact that it was at CES in 92 when they showed this device off, I think the interesting part was that, that was pre-E3, because E3 hadn't been around, so you had the game companies out on the tech show floor, showing this off and putting it together. And this was like, I don't know, maybe even early days of what Palm became, and I know Apple had their own Palm Pilot style device too.
Well, and you think about it, this kind of you didn't really see this in any of the other systems, but looking at the DS, this was kind of worked in there if you think about it.
Yeah, because it had the calendar
Not
function, it had a
necessarily
clock.
all of it, but
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool though to actually see it like working and moving around. I wonder if though now, especially with this, I wonder if we'll end up actually seeing maybe somebody take it, like maybe if he can find somebody to help safely take it apart, and try to figure out, paths and such and the type of chips used in that. Maybe we actually could see some crazy reproductions of this or something, you know,
That would be
just for
really
just for
cool.
like people to have as collectors. It's like here's the board, 3D print your own case for it, throw it all together, and you're
But
set.
that would mean the Nintendo ninjas would come out of the woodwork and
Yeah, that's
all
also
hell would
true.
break loose.
I guess that's also true. I mean, you think like you could probably clone it in one fashion, probably like a Raspberry Pi, if you could figure out what else you needed to do to, because the ROM is out there. Like it even said in the article, is that the only way he
Right.
got it working was by actually getting a ROM of it. And the shocking thing though is still like I've never actually seen
Hmm.
the process happen is burning an image to an actual cartridge. I've never actually seen that process before, so I can't imagine, going from outside a factory to being in your bedroom or in your office doing it. I think is just interesting, to say the least.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that's a really neat thing. So get over there to Did You Know Gaming and check out the rest of the video on there to show the expedition that it took to actually find this and what it took to actually get it working though too, because it's actually a really neat watch. Now we carry on, of course, to our next story, and of course, as everything goes on, everything has to be getting hacked here. So, Kyle, talk to us about this story from Kotaku here. Koei Tecmo shuts down forums following a data hack. Dun dun dun.
Uh-oh. So, the Japanese publisher Koei Tecmo announced over the Christmas holiday that some personal data from 65,000 users of English language website was hacked, leading the company to take its US and UK website offline for the time being. Within the website, operated by KTE, the forum page and the registered user information, approximately 65,000 entries has been determined to the data that may have been breached. Koei Tecmo announced in a press release on December 25th, first reported on by Bleeping Computer. The user data that may have been leaked through the hacking is perceived to be the account names and related passwords, the passwords being encrypted, of course, and or registered email addresses. Um, the publisher, which is responsible for the Dynasty Warrior series, including several Musu spin-offs and recent Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, wrote that the hack appeared to be isolated to its forum page and didn't contain any credit card information. Koei Tecmo added that it doesn't know who launched the cyber attack yet, that it believes the likelihood of the leaks being related to a ransomware attack is low. In addition to reporting the data breach to the EU's General Data Protection Regulation, the publisher has also temporarily shut down the US and UK websites due to the possibility of an external cyber attack on the website. It is temporarily closed as we investigate the issue, quote unquote.
Hmm.
Reads a single line of text that appears when you try and visit Koei Tecmo America. Unlike the recent extensive cyber attack on Capcom in November, which affected corporate information like sales reports and development documents, this data breach appears to be isolated to the player emails and passwords. Koei Tecmo apologizes for the concern and inconvenience this may be causing to its customers and business partners, the publisher wrote in its press release. For individuals who have had their email addresses leaked, Koei Tecmo is determined to take the appropriate measures and act in good faith hereafter. Koei Tecmo didn't immediately respond to any request for comments from Kotaku, so that's how that wound up.
Man, it's not like hacks are necessarily anything new, but
Yeah.
it's I guess it's just kind of going down the line. It's like who is going to get hacked next? I mean, we hear about something I think every week, whether it's small time or big time.
I feel like it's become a major issue though
Mm-hmm.
recently because there's so many people at home. There's gonna be people that get bored. There's gonna be people that are frustrated and bored.
Mm-hmm.
Or they're maybe not even frustrated. Maybe they're just hateful or spiteful people. Who knows?
But it's like,
Whatever reason they want to go after a company, and I think it's going to be more prevalent when people are stuck at home, pen up, and that's all they have to think about, and they've got the computer there, to
mm-hmm.
learn with it and make it happen.
Well, the first value anyway, of course, is that you think about your standard user generally will reuse passwords and usernames on multiple
Mm-hmm.
things. So getting the information, of course, is only 65,000 entries based on what the article said, but 65,000 user accounts, and there's got to be some sort of thing out there that says X amount of people out there, one in X amount of people reuse their username and password across multiple things and multiple platforms, accounts, what have you. So somewhere in there, it's gonna come back and bite somebody anyway. But it's the nature of the beast when it comes to the hacks anyway. Is you do your best to play damage control, get everything cleaned up, reassure your users that you've got everything under control, and fix whatever you need to make sure it doesn't happen again. That's all you can do,
Yeah,
really. I
and
mean,
notify customers if their information has been leaked, so they can take appropriate actions to save themselves any heartache.
mm-hmm, exactly. So now that we got that heartache out of the way, let's go to an interesting story here again. This one comes to us from The Verge, and this one, Kyle, especially you being the Dreamcast aficionado you are, is talking about a never-before-seen Simpsons video game dreamt up for the Dreamcast called Simpsons Bug Squad. As a lowly Wired magazine intern, actually, here, we'll just get past that because this is talking about, let's see here. Let's see. I guess one of their first assignments was reviewing the Simpsons game. Yeah, so today, the Dreamcastic channel on YouTube via Kotaku is showcasing an unreleased tech demo from the year 2000 for a title tentatively called The Simpsons Bug Squad. It's from the long-defunct Red Lemon Studios, and it's a remarkable how much the game's cel-shaded graphics look like the show. Apparently, a Dreamcast Talk forum user by the name of Sreek found the demo just sitting on a broken Dreamcast dev kit's hard drive, and with a bit of help, the forum figured out how to make it playable. Less understandable is why the whole Bug Squad thing. Were you really going to play a bug? Why? Who would your squad be comprised of? Compromised of? I don't know. Hopefully, some of the original
Comprised
developers.
of, yeah.
It's
No,
supposed to be
you're
compromised of. Yeah, it says compromised of. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, so I'll pull the video up here so we can look at this together. It's the demo itself. Like I've watched this video already. I don't know exactly what it was. It looks more like it was supposed to just be a proof of concept anyway, that it's like we could
I
do
think
this.
it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, what would the story have been? Are you supposed to be like just fly on the wall, see what happens in the Simpsons' life? Are you supposed to, do things to make their life easier, or try and bug them?
Bug them.
It raises a lot of questions to what it could have been. I guess I had heard also that one of the reasons that it got made is the gentleman that made it was actually friends with someone at Fox that was a producer or something, and they just kind of ran with it just to show it to him, and yeah, it just happened to be on there still. I don't know. I think it's a really cool concept. I just love looking at some of the old Dreamcast like cel shaded graphics, because I feel like that's one of the consoles that really had the cel shaded look figured out really early on.
Well,
But
the whole thing that it looks like here is for them, of course, to like the intro thing said is that it's version 1.0 and it was built to present the actual like running engine to Fox executives or somewhere there in the management chain, because like so it's just to probably show off exactly it's like what can be done, because things I can actually tell here in the videos first and foremost. The actual design of this bug here is out of place for anything in the Simpsons world anyway. It doesn't have that same flair or
right,
style. So it looks like it was built as something exactly as you see it here, not necessarily to be like a playable game per se, but to actually show off like all of the different facets of like what the engine is rendering and what things look like in, as you're playing it in like real time. So it could have been anything like like maybe if the game had like a character selection, you could play around as Maggie, doing something nefarious, and you're crawling around on the ground. And of course, where the bug is at here in the video now, that would actually be a pretty good fit for where she's where you might actually get her perspective from. So it just seems like that's the case here, is just to kind of illustrate what can be done. I guess, but within limits, because I can see here, at least in some of it, the video on the TV is only showing so much. The other part of the living room there that splits off isn't in there at all. It's just a wall. It looks like the outside, when you can see it, is kind of moving around. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if necessarily like the engine assets in that maybe because the Simpsons games that came out, like Hit and Run, were not cell shaded, right? They were basically solid 3D pieces, right?
I don't. Yeah, I think they were solid 3D. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just interesting to see it. So it's like what this was for is just as a proof of concept to say it's like, well, if you want us to make a Simpsons game, this is kind of an idea of what it could look like, and they just go off of default information of the Simpsons. They got to just provide some frame of reference. So. But that is cool, though, that, there is the possibility of, or there could have been the possibility of a Simpsons game coming out on the Dreamcast. I'm sure that probably actually would have been a big hit, but just like everything else with the Dreamcast, it's gone. Nobody can really go and look forward to playing something like that anyway. So go back and play Simpsons Hit and Run, okay? But
Right.
yeah. But that's it for on the Simpsons part. So let's move on here to this next story here from The Gamer, and this one's a bizarre one, for sure. I mean, if you don't think Simpsons Bug Squad was bizarre, this one's bizarre and teeters on pure luck, pure stupidity, and rather dangerous take on stuff. So Kyle, talk to us about
Yeah.
this story here about Dragon Quest III speedrunner uses hot plate to overheat cartridge, causing a level 99 bug. Jesus Christ.
A Dragon Quest III speedrunner has used a hot plate to overheat the cartridge in order to cause a bug that starts the party at level 99. The original Dragon Quest suffered from the fact that it only had one character. This meant the hero was responsible for being the melee fighter, the buffer, debuffer, and the healer. If he died, then it was back to the nearest church to start over. Dragon Quest II, Luminaries of the Legendary Line, had a party of 3 characters: the Prince of Middenhall, the Prince of Canuck, and the Princess of Moonbrook. The 3 heroes had established classes slash roles in the party, and it was difficult to use them in other ways. Dragon Quest III Seeds of Salvation was the first game in the series that allowed the player to form their own party. There was the default hero unit, who is one of the hero costumes in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and they had a role in the story that needed to be followed. The rest of the party was created by the player, and their character class could be changed over the course of the game. Uh, let's see. Do I have to hit the start thing now? To
No,
go
no.
through
I
this
think this is
article?
just
Okay.
maybe. I don't know. No, keep going down. That's just no. That's
Okay.
just something. Yeah,
Sorry, my screen locked up there for a second.
that's cool.
Okay. Let's see. Dragon Quest III is a tricky game to speedrun due to the sheer number of random encounters the player can expect to face. A speedrunner in Japan has come up with the ingenious way to make the game easier. According to VG Densetsu, the player did this using a hot plate. Um, and then, of course, the post reads that after noticing that you could cause a bug that saves from Dragon Quest III by increasing the temperature of the cartridge and start at level 99 at a specific temperature, a player has made a speed run of the game with his console resting on a hot plate. So he actually, in fact, does have the entire Super NES console on the hot plate. Uh, the player noticed that the heat could affect the save file in the game. By heating the system using the hot plate, they were able to start out at level 99, making all the fights in the game end in a second, save for the boss battles, giving the hero early access to the Holy Protection spell, which they normally learn at level 19, also makes the run go quicker, as they can prevent a lot of encounters from happening. This technique would be banned in most speedrunning categories, but there are some that allow the use of the exploit and glitches. This means we could see even more speedrunners cooking their consoles in order to shave precious seconds off their world record runs.
Fuck off, man. That's such a crazy thing like to put up there.
Cheating.
It's just it's funny because it's like the only way to do it, there's glitches in games that you can exploit anyway. I mean, if you remember back to the way backwards jumping could be in Super Mario 64 and that, I mean, that's not necessarily a glitch or a bug or anything, but to cook your console with the cartridge in it to be able to get to level 99, what the hell? No. Especially for an old cartridge like that.
Yeah.
I mean, that if you do it once and exploit it that way and get your speed run in, sure. Multiple times, you're going to fry that thing. You're going to fry that thing unless you have a way to like super cool it as soon as you get to where you need to be. But Jesus Christ, I mean, the lengths that people will go to do it. Whatever. It's not my cartridge. I'm not a speedrunner. You guys do whatever you need to do. Whatever. All right. Jeez. Well, let's move on here. And this one's kind of a sadder story in some ways. I guess it depends on how anybody else wants to interpret it. But of course, the end of 2020 brought with us the demise of the only thing that we've all come to know and love, of course, in the world of the internet, Flash. So this article here, actually from Hot Hardware, is talking about Farmville itself, and I know that's an interesting one to look at in the world of Flash, especially because of things like Newgrounds that we've got, all the different games and animations that we're all, we all enjoyed. But this was definitely an interesting article to at least look at, though, just kind of talking about what happened to Farmville, because it was a very popular Flash game in the earlier parts of Facebook. So the article goes on to say, after more than a decade, the original Farmville game that put developer Zynga on the map is shutting down for good. The reason? It is an Adobe Flash-based title, and with Adobe officially ending support for its Flash player today, Farmville becomes an optional casualty. I say optional because Zynga could have ported it to HTML5, but it is decided not to do that. Zynga co-founder and chairman Mark Pincus posted a memorial of sorts to Farmville on Twitter, explaining how it was created and the role it played in the evolution of gaming from his perspective. The real innovation of Farmville was in making games accessible to busy adults, giving them a place to invest and express themselves and be seen by people in their lives as creative. People through Farmville as a sort of etch-a-sketch. People through Farmville as a thought. It's probably supposed to be people thought Farmville was a sort of etch-a-sketch. That looks like there's probably a typo. It was the first game that leveraged big data, and almost everything inside the game was tested and optimized. Farmville became a training ground for a generation of entrepreneurs and product managers. We'll talk more about that in a second, actually. Zynga launched the original Farmville game on Facebook in June 2009. By the end of its first week on the platform, it had amassed 1 million daily active users. According to Pincus, part of the appeal of Farmville was that busy adults, especially women, saw that games could have a valuable place in their lives and offer you more than empty calories. He likened it to a person's favorite TV series in its appeal. Incidentally, there was once talk of Farmville becoming an animated TV series. What the fuck? Though I'm not sure if that ever came to fruition. God. For a time, it felt like Facebook and Farmville were synonymous. Even if you were not playing it, many of your friends and family members probably were, growing their crops and perhaps spending money on the game. And of course, there was the deluge of automated invites from those friends and family members who were hooked. Yes, that was a long time ago, though. The original Farmville was not nearly as popular yesterday when it was still up as it was 11 years ago. However, it did spawn sequels such as Farmville 2, Farmville 2 Country Escape, and Farmville 2 Tropic Escape, all of which are still playable. So at least they generated those. All right. So getting into this part kind of here that I wanted to, talking about it, saying Farmville became a training ground for a generation of entrepreneurs and product managers. Well, first and foremost, fuck you, because every single game that you can now go buy or go and get and download really on mobile now is free to play. At the same time, then there's also things you need to wait on doing. And it ushered in a chaotic level of microtransactions that the world was not expecting to really come across and see. I mean, do you remember, Kyle, not only Farmville, but like, what was it, Mafia Wars or something like that too? It was like a game that you'd also get like invites to, and it was about not necessarily the same thing as Farmville. I mean, you weren't necessarily like placing, people around or anything mafia style, but you had a whole like chain of command to do. You had whole little missions to go take care of, but it was a free to play thing, took some time to do stuff. And then, you could pay to progress even farther and make yourself better. Do you remember that one?
I do. I never got into it because that was pre me having Facebook. I tried to avoid it as long as possible.
No, that's fair.
So
this is like it bugs me because Farmville was successful, and I know a bunch of people who did play it. I tried it out a little bit because I finally got tired of the invite, like all the auto invites. It's like, okay, I'll go see what it is. I think I played it for like a week and then just didn't care anymore. But no, it's just that, it became a training ground for a generation of entrepreneurs and product managers. Yeah, it became a training ground for people to realize how they could monetize their games as free to play with microtransactions. And now it's gone from being a mobile thing all the way up through console, PC, and even more. Swear to God, man. It's just, it's a pain in the absolute ass to think about what Farmville did. Even it's just, that's just part of it. Overall, though, the key thing to really emphasize on this is that not only is Farmville dead, but it's just that Flash is gone. It's gone. Nobody's making anything for it. Flash automatically uninstalled from my computer. I'm sure I've got a deluge of stuff to look at elsewhere for where Flash could be hiding as well, but it's gone. And there's a lot of memories, I think, that go with Flash that a lot of us, anybody viewing this, Kyle, myself especially here too, have about Flash stuff. I remember downtime, especially in high school, playing something like Kitten Cannon. There was also it was on Newgrounds. There was that beat 'em up game where it's like you just had this round blob of a figure of an object that was just kind of walking around, and you could you could shoot him, you could throw balls at him, you could drop bombs on him. I can't remember that one, the name of it itself. I think what we actually saw come out of a couple of things there, especially out of the Flash world, is Castle Crashers and Alien Hominid originally started as Newgrounds things and then became console titles, both on the Xbox 360. And of course, kind of went past that. We haven't seen really anything from those in a while. I don't even ask me to count how many years, but a while.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So, yeah. And then, of course, a lot of stuff even on YouTube as well. Big example, one of my favorites is Ego Raptor, also known as, Aaron from the Game Grumps. He started out with all of his animations on Newgrounds, and those were all Flash animations. And to this day, at least, we can enjoy them in YouTube video format. But, those were some of the things to go back and watch, especially. But, Flash is dead. We actually have been through enough console generations and game releases and that, though, too. But Flash, I think, will always hold a special place in our hearts as just the true time wasters of games, especially on computers that probably couldn't run much, but could play Flash games. So we salute you. Flash, you died some type of death there, and honestly, it's Apple's fault. So we carry on. This is now on to our last story here, and this one wrapping up again, just kind of what happened here in 2020, but wrapping up 2020 on the financial side. So Kyle, talk to us here about this last story here from Fansided. I believe this is a subgroup in winterscoming.net talking about saying 2020 video games made more money than movies and sports combined. So how'd they do?
With everyone stuck at home in 2020, obviously movies and sports were going to take a hit. But you know what everyone else was doing? In 2019, the movie industry made $100 billion for the first time, buoyed by big releases like The Lion King, Frozen 2, Star Wars Episode 5. Or
Nine.
episode 9, excuse me. Jesus,
5.
I can't read my Roman numerals either tonight. And Avengers Endgame. That was impressive, but obviously revenues plummeted in 2020 as theaters around the world closed thanks to the coronavirus pandemic. With Variety estimating that the film industry could see 71.5% box office drop this year. Meanwhile, before COVID, it was estimated that North America's sports would bring in $75 billion in 2020. That didn't happen either. But in the gap, video games stepped up in a big way. Mobile console NPC gaming has been on the rise for a while anyway, but in 2020 they made $179.7 billion. That's not just more than movies and sports combined in 2020, when both were hobbled by the pandemic, but more than movies and sports combined in 2019 when they were thriving. This is according to MarketWatch, which credits the rise of video gaming to few things. To start, the pandemic shut down other forms of entertainment and made video games one of the few easily enjoyable options. Also, there are so many ways for video games to extract money from people now. It's not just about buying a game and playing it. There are subscription-based games with reoccurring payments, and millions engage in microtransactions every day. And even though mobile gaming is where the most money comes from, new consoles like the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 4 will bring in yet more revenue. Overall, the video game industry has made 20% more money this year than last year. Although International Data Corporation or Gaming Research Director Lewis Ward does expect things to level off eventually, quote unquote, saying, I do think there will be declaration as soon as effective, cheap, globally available vaccines get out there over the course of 2021. But I'm quite sure at the end of 2021 there will be still billions potential people that will need vaccines. So my declaration happens in 2022.
So what they're predicting then is that they're predicting some type of slowdown somewhere probably around 2022 because of vaccine deployment. But honestly, I think I don't actually know if I'm going to see anything like that per se.
I don't know that. I was going to say that I feel like, now that gaming has ramped up more so, and it's become more available to people, and people have actually seen that it's available since they don't have anything else to do. I don't think it's necessarily just going to go away.
No, I don't think so either. I think it's just going to continue to get going up there more and more. And I think what you're going to see is, like, I don't think we're going to see the big resurgence of movie theater going and that. I think sports is going to be that way because sports has always been big. But I don't think movies are going to be getting back up to the same size, especially if the streaming platforms actually find that the profits maybe from that are actually much greater than what it'd be in theaters.
That's what I was going to say. I think not only that, I think you might actually have more people wanting to just stream it from home more often now.
Exactly. And then,
I mean, sure, you will always have people that want to go do the theater experience, and it is a thing to go do a theater experience.
Mm-hmm.
But I do feel like there are going to be a larger audience of people that will want to watch day and date releases at home. Um, I feel
Yeah.
like with the gaming market, um, I feel like it is always going to be a steady incline now. The incline might not be as sharp as it was this year, or I should say last year now, but I feel like at least for the majority of this year, it'll still be a sharp incline up. We're going to continue to see an uptick, and that'll be a high incline uptick for quite a while.
Yeah, I think so, especially as manufacturing really like levels out and steadies out for the new consoles. We're of course talking about more games that are actually going to be releasing too, updates to catalogs for Game Pass, whatever Sony's next offering could be in relation to that too, whatever Nintendo's got up their sleeve, stuff that's going on PC gaming wise, esports still being just as strong as it is.
Well, and you figure
It's
it
that big.
ties also directly back into, so many people watching games too.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, there's going to be more money being spent on games because there's more people looking at other people play games and go, "Oh, maybe I can do that too. Maybe that would be really fun."
Yeah, I'm actually curious to know throughout the course of this last year if Amazon or Twitch will ever actually release it, or even if Google will release it for YouTube side, is to find
Hmm.
out how many people actually started streaming, like consistent streaming, or even at least stream their own video in 2020. Like what was the uptick in new streams in 2020 versus what it was in 2019, and then that opens it
Right.
up. Exactly like you said, it opens up even more, because people might find their niche doing streaming. But I don't actually see it declining at all. Like I don't actually see
Mm-mm.
the pace of it maybe slow down a tiny bit, but because of the accessibility of gaming versus going and watching, sitting in a stadium watching a football game, or going and sitting in a movie theater, of course, those are two vastly different things. But I actually see like I just see more and more video games just being purchased and more being played. And then the movie theater stuff,
Hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised to actually see stuff kind of scale down to be more like your boutique, like two screen type movie theaters instead of your giant like movie plexes like we have AMC here in town, with what, 8 or 10 screens. I see that kind of scaling down a bit, but who knows? I mean, these places are
Yeah.
going to have to start cutting costs, or hey, they all go away and everything goes to streaming, and we can sit back and watch Black Widow and whatever else comes out at home.
Or another thing to consider is, maybe this is going to be an opportunity for movie theaters to take it up a notch. Maybe not rely so heavily on high priced concessions and realize that they're going to have to provide more service than just being
Mm-hmm.
able to go watch the movie on a big screen. Maybe we'll see more draft style houses uh, pop up. I know one of our local theater is actually planning on putting in a draft house portion of in their location. So
Yeah, and then Sean even made the
that's a
comment.
possibility too.
Yeah, and Sean made the comment. He's like, "I'd be down for more drive-ins." And see, there, right there, that with drive-ins and that, you can pack a bunch of people in, but then you have the comfort of being in your own vehicle to sit back and actually see the
Right.
movie, and still have at least somewhat of that experience. But yeah, exactly. Like you actually made it even very clear. Is the concession side of it? I think is really what kills it. You worked at the movie theater here in town, so you
Oh
understand the
yeah.
cost difference between tickets. It's like, oh, okay, cool, I'll go see a movie for $5 at this time because this is the cheaper time, but you're still expecting me to pay 15 to 20 bucks to eat something here? Enough. Jeez,
Well,
man. Fuck
and
you.
over the course of the 10 years that I worked there, you
Mm-hmm.
figure when I started, just like a regular couples combo or whatever they called it back then, that was like two medium drinks and a large popcorn was like 10.50. By the time I left, that same combo was 20.75 or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like if you want to talk about a night out,
So
it's obscene.
just that one combo paid for a bag of popcorn, like a 50-pound bag of
Mm-hmm.
seed.
Yeah, and see, it's like for like for myself, having 3 kids, loading up my wife and the 3 kids to go to a movie to go actually see something, and the expectation, of course, is like, okay, kids are going to want something to drink, let's get the kids something to eat, and that too, you're talking about a potential $50 to $75 outing just for us to go sit in a movie theater for an hour and a half to 2 hours, where I could instead pay $30 for a movie that is brand new but is streaming. Like, we got Wonder Woman 84 that just came out. I could go to Walmart or King Soopers or wherever and pick up the boxes of movie theater style candy, get my own popcorn, get like a movie theater style popcorn there too, and pay $4 or $5 and save myself all that money in the long run. And then, of course, because it's all the kids at home and that too, then I can enjoy my own beer. I can enjoy my own food. Kids want to eat movie theater stuff? Awesome. I'm gonna go have me a microwave hot pocket or something. I don't know. Whatever. I'm just saying those, that even when it comes down to games though too, is that there haven't been really like these places to go and actually hang out to play games, except we got the arcade downtown. I had a business idea with a friend of mine to actually open up a LAN center here, and we're actually getting really close to open one. And to be honest, I'm glad we didn't, especially with what happened in the pandemic, because we would have just been screwed.
Yeah.
But you don't really have places where people are gathering to play video games. You're always in the home doing it. So the video game market is never going to be impacted by anything like this, except for high demand initially, the cost to acquire things right off the bat, and then filling in, wherever things might actually fall short. Everybody had a run on getting a console at the start of the pandemic because like, oh, I need something to do at home. And of course, Switch is sold out, Xbox is sold out, PlayStation is sold out. They're all gone. But it means that you're home, you're safe, and you can still enjoy something, and you have actually the control over it versus a movie theater. You got to listen to everybody coughing and sneezing and, just being generally annoying. And at a sports event, well, it's a sports event. I don't think I need to say anything else. But I'll use that as a transition on this. That's where I think we don't really need to say much else on that anyway, is that video games made a lot of money this year. Everything else didn't. TLDR. That's it. But that is actually it for us on the news this week. So, Kyle, to end it up here right now, what is your biggest hope video game-wise for 2021? What is your biggest hope for 2021?
Oh man, biggest hope.
Yeah, video game wise, whether it's a surprise game announcement, a console thing or something, you get a call from Gabe Newell over at Valve that says, "Hey, I want to hire you as a tester for $200,000 a year or something." I don't know. What is your hope, for your realistic hope really for 2021 in video gaming?
I think realistically, I would like for more companies to look at what's happening to CD Projekt Red and say, hey, maybe it's worth the wait on a project. Maybe we shouldn't necessarily push it out. Maybe review your products a little bit better. Not saying that they necessarily didn't, but also be fully open, give full disclosure on stuff like previous gen. Don't bar people once you've already sent out copies and stuff. That's insanity. I don't want to see any more of that this year.
I think I've actually got 2 of them. So the one I'll focus on actually here is, I think, because of what happened with the pandemic, I really want to see more emphasis on crossplay being an initial offering with whatever game is being developed, especially if it's a game that would benefit from crossplay. It doesn't need to be something where you develop the game and then run separate things for individual consoles, like, for server-wise or anything like that. I'm talking about when your game is announced and you're working on it, it's already in the pipeline that says day one, we will have cross-platform support no matter what. So that way, in the grand scheme of it being a pandemic, you're, of course I know there's first party titles and such. So obviously we won't see cross-platform Halo between a PlayStation and an Xbox, but what I'm saying though is that day one for these multi-platform games, open it up and make sure that you actually can expand your player base and allow them to be able to work together with each other and not force them to have to go buy multiple platforms to be able to play the same game with different people. That, I think that's the biggest thing that they should focus on and really have learned from this last year and should really put into emphasizing this year.
I think that that's a good one to build off of mine because last year, if you remember, I wanted more cross-platform, but I was pretty general, just more cross-platform. Period.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I remember you had made that comment last. That's why I brought it back up again. I think the example really presented itself though with what happened this year, like 100% with what happened this year. Because I'm grateful. I will tell you right now, I am grateful that stuff on PC right now, especially thanks to Xbox Game Pass, a lot of the games on there I can play, and I can play with users on Xbox, and I can play with users on PlayStation if the game is, not just a first party thing. I also appreciate the fact that Warzone is also cross-platform as well too, and forces you into it. But it opened it up to being able to play with so many people right at the start. You're not just playing with PC players. You're not just playing console against console. You're playing with everybody. And it's just, it was great because it meant that there was a wider range of people that you can get into with. So playing with the same person twice, unless you're in a party with them, was very rare. Except for all those people who are stream sniped and such, but that's neither here nor there. But I think the emphasis really, though, it should be that this year. And then, of course, that everybody who wants to buy the computer part, the new console, whatever it is that they want this year is able to get it, that the manufacturing hiccups are all addressed and that the scalpers are taken out into the middle of the street and flogged with possibly old Xbox, like original gen Xbox controllers. I'm talking just I'm talking like a Cat of Nine Tails or something style, like just 9 original Xbox controllers just tied together by their cables. And then as they're sitting out there in the middle of the street, you just beat them with it. You just flog them with it. Okay, you don't kill them, you just flog them with it. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
Just 9 dukes tied together.
Exactly. So with all of that said, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to our live stream this week. Of course, thank you for sticking around with us all the way through the chaos that was 2020. For all the podcast stuff coming up, we've got one more episode in our of the year 2020 awards roundup, and that's actually our game of the year. So be on the lookout for that. We probably should record another episode too, because that's the only one on the docket, unless that one goes on for like 3 hours for some weird reason, and we have to split that up into 2 episodes.
I think Preston had planned that one was going to be a big discussion point. So
probably. So okay, so we'll just plan on possibly one, maybe a 2-parter this next week here. So remember, if you're not following us on those podcast platforms, because you hear me at the end of every goddamn episode saying it, go follow us there. It helps us out a lot. Of course, follow us on here on Facebook. If you're watching us on Facebook, if you're watching us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button there as well. Again, this was the first year for us putting up anything on YouTube. Of course, we've only been doing this for just under 2 years now. But you subscribing there, of course, lets you know when we go live for the news, when we actually put videos up. Of course, I owe everybody a video on the Xbox Series X because I'm just a terrible person and have not gotten around to doing it. Of course, then I need to get a review of Cyberpunk 2077 finished up for all you guys as well, too. So make sure you're following us on all these different platforms that we're on, because it helps us out. It helps you out to be able to at least see when we're available. And of course, if there's something that we're doing that you would like to see improve, you'd like to see change, you'd like to see actually come from us, by all means, let us know. We are open to suggestions and open to changing things, except, no, I won't do that thing. You know who you are. You know what I'm talking about. I've said no several times, and I will get my lawyer involved if you continue to bring this up. You know who you are. But with all that said, everybody, thank you so much for sticking with us here in this episode. We will catch you guys all next week.
Laters.